What does that mean?
Okay, so what it means is that Qualcomm has a board, I think it's about 11 people now. And that board, along with management, has voted against the initial tender offer. So I think what Broadcom and their CEO wants to convince shareholders that their offer is worth looking at. And one way you could do that is by replacing Qualcomm's board with their slate. That's the term that's often used. So they are nominating 11 other individuals. And there will be a board meeting or shareholders meeting, in March, I believe, early March. And at that time, there'll be two competing slates. The existing slate and then the slate that's being proposed by Broadcom, and then shareholders will cast their votes on that. And if majority of the folks cast, or more than a majority casts with Broadcom, then they will replace Qualcomm's board, and the presumption is that now this is a board that's more in line with what Broadcom wants to do, and that's the expectation.
So what would motivate shareholders to go with Broadcom's slate over Qualcomm's slate?
Good question. I think one of the things that also I suspect could happen between now and March is currently Broadcom has an offer of $70 on the table. They could raise the offer. It could go up to 80 or so. And the result of that is that Qualcomm stock before this offer was made has been averaging around $55 to $60 a share. So if an offer goes to at least 80 or 85, that's a significant premium over the pre-offer price. And a lot of the shares are owned essentially by institutions like pension funds and mutual funds. And they might then find this an attractive offer. So if they are willing to go along with this offer, and they will therefore also vote with their feet because they own the shares, they could vote with the new slate. And that would push the possibility of Broadcom being successful.
So just to put this in perspective, does this decision come down to like 10 people, 1,000 people, 1,500 people? How many shareholders does a company like Qualcomm have?
Qualcomm has got 100. I mean, if you say in terms of number of shares outstanding, is probably close to 1 billion shares, I suspect. I think, but I could be wrong. But it's a large number, hundreds of millions of shares outstanding. The number of shareholders, I assume, are also very large. But about 70% of the stock is owned by institutions. So these are, as I said before, mutual funds and so on. So they have a lot more clout because they can collectively vote. So if I am, let's say, a pension fund that is owning about 5 million shares, and I am in favor of the new board, then I will vote my 5 million shares in their favor.
And why is Broadcom being so aggressive?
Well, they are, this is the landscape of M&A. If you have a determined buyer who has done their background work and they have a history of acquisitions. Broadcom was a U.S. company that was acquired by a company called Avago, based in, I believe, Singapore. And they decided to keep the Broadcom name after the acquisition. So the company Broadcom or /Avago has grown by acquisition. So they see this as a possibility to expand their footprint. And there is consolidation taking place in the industry. And now, besides so-called cell phones, there is a big market in automobiles. Everywhere wireless technologies are becoming more and more prevalent. So they see themselves as being able to work with Qualcomm and to expand as a combined company.
So as this is being reported, I'm reading the headline of a possible hostile takeover. What is a hostile takeover, and would this step be considered a step towards being a hostile takeover?
Well, so hostile takeover is any time the boards of the two companies disagree about in particular the acquired company or the target board is opposed to the overtures, then the acquiring company or the buyer can directly go to the shareholders by just simply upping the price. And at the end of the day, if enough stockholders are willing to take the higher price, money counts, then it's a hostile bid the moment they make a bid directly to the stockholders, and that they've already done. So in that sense, it is already hostile. So this is now an additional step they're taking, that they want to challenge the board. And between now and March, if they up the stock price even more or up the offer price, that'll probably put more pressure on the board. Because at the end of the day, it'll be the stockholders who will go along or not go along with this deal. So the challenge for Qualcomm is to convince the stockholders that, hey, wait, because if we continue with the company, the stock price could be much higher going forward.
So just to clarify, even before this step, it was hostile? So
yes. So the moment they directly approached the shareholders of Qualcomm, and they did that, I assume, because they did not expect that Qualcomm would be receptive to a friendly deal. So that's a hostile sort of bid. And now this is just one more step in this process that they feel that the Qualcomm board is not going to go along. And so we want to pursue this avenue.
Okay, so how powerful is the board if it's the shareholders that ultimately have the vote?
Well, the board, remember, is supposed to be the fiduciary of the stockholders. So in principle, the board is supposed to represent the best interests of the shareholders. But the board also works with management. And so the board has to, its primary responsibility is the shareholders. And sort of the decision for the board is, will the shareholders be better off with the Broadcom in the picture, or will they be better off by opposing this deal and making a case that this company will be worth a lot more going forward without Broadcom?
So what happens now, between now and March? Is there going to be campaigning on both sides?
Well, typically what happens if this is a proxy fight, what will happen is that Broadcom has to then solicit the shareholders of Qualcomm. So they will, if I'm a shareholder of Qualcomm, let's say, I will receive a letter sometime saying that please vote your shares in our favor. This is our slate. And every shareholder will have the right to vote during the shareholders meeting. So a lot of money will be spent trying to convince the stockholders. You will see ads in papers like the Wall Street Journal, the San Diego Union Tribune, trying to argue about the merits of their slate versus Qualcomm slate.
So if Broadcom is successful, how big of a deal is it?
Well, it's a big deal in the sense that the two combined companies will be large companies in this space. There is consolidation taking place, so it'll be a big company. And I think Broadcom is, I guess they have what they call a headquarters in I believe, San Jose area. And so I think the headquarters will probably move there, or they could decide to be headquartered here. I mean, there's nothing to stop that from happening if Broadcom is successful. So I suspect that there will be some negotiations. I mean, unless these two parties are so diametrically opposed to this, you're going to see. But so now it's gotten to the next level. I mean, these people doesn't look like they're going to walk away.
Wow. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Thank you.